Here I have 3 different soil profiles side by side to show you how pedons can change drastically depending on the landscape. This first one is fully organic. The entire length of it is organic. So the way that we measure horizons in organic soils is based on the decomposition. So at the top you can see that there's still a lot of sphagnum, and that sphagnum is barely decomposed. This is fibric, and then that's mineral from somewhere. And then as we go down here, this is mesic, so that you can still see fibers in it, but it's starting to be slimier. And you would test it by taking a small amount and squeezing it between your fingers. This is the Von Post test. The liquid that's coming out is pretty dark, a little bit clear, and I can see those fibers in there still. But it's starting to seep out through my fingers. This is mesic. If I keep going all the way down, there's another piece of sand. I feel like these are from here though. And to the bottom, and I take some from down here and I squeeze it. The water that's coming out from between my fingers is starting to be clear. It's still staying in my fingers though. So we still have a fairly mesic sample. There's still some fibric pieces. It's looking like muck. Like it's not looking like leaves at all. So this is fibric. It still looks like pieces of sphagnum. But all of this is mesic. Humus, when we get to it, which I don't think we're going to here, would actually squeeze out from between my fingers. When I squeezed it, it would just like disappear. It's so no longer resembling anything like fibrous material that it just like completely squeezes out. And this bottom is very similar to humus. It's slimy on my fingers. It's pretty close. Like this is getting really close. So if you were going to put horizons here, like there's a definite horizon here where this humus fibrous layer is. It's been moved around. I think it's about there. And then I think there'd be another layer somewhere in here where that mesic becomes a little bit more humic, but it's still mesic all the way down. We'd have to go further down to get some proper humus. So you might only see those 2 layers. And then we would do that Von Post test every few centimeters, every 10 centimeters or so, and get the numbers from the Von Post scale for each of those. With this sample, you can see at the bottom, there's a gleyed sand. So this still has parent material down at the bottom, so we actually have like a mineral layer. So if you were measuring this, you'd measure all the organic. Your 0 is right here. That's 0. And this is all organic. This is the beginning of your mineral. So when you measure your mineral layer, you have 0, that's inches. 0 to about 23 is mineral sand, and that's like, I would probably call it a C layer despite the fact that it's our first mineral layer because it hasn't seen very many pedogenic processes. The only thing being is sand, and it's gleyed. Sand is probably the original parent material, glacial fluvial sand that's been deposited. Up here again, we've got a divide between this fibric layer, which is much smaller, and there's a mesic layer, and I can still see fibers in here. But this is slimier down here, so I'd probably end up having a secondary layer in there. It's very slimy. Our last one is a forest soil sample that's mostly mineral. It's hard to tell because it's been moved around a lot, but this is a mineral soil, so there's an LHF layer up here, and this is all It's been moved around a lot. But this is all like an AH layer, and this is where our B layer starts down here. And you can see the models in this B layer, and you have a BF, and then a yellowish B layer, and then there probably would be eventually a C layer very similar to this that's just sand with no pedogenic chemical changes to it. Because of that BF layer, your first instinct is to say, oh, it's a podzol. But this organic AH layer is so large, I'm not sure if we would call it a podzol or not. I'd have to get out my key and check to see what are the diagnostic features of that BF layer. Not every BF layer immediately says definitely podzol. Podzols all have a BH or BF layer, but it doesn't necessarily mean that every soil with a BF or BH layer is a podzol.